Hi guys. So we did MDMA the other day for the first time in, I think, about 4 years. I can't remember exactly when the last time we did it was. We may have done it like kind of once, some time that we've forgotten sort of during that period. But broadly speaking, it's been like 4 or 5 years since we did it regularly. I think actually it's been more than that. Like it's been probably like 6 or 7 years. We used to abuse it very heavily. I did a video about that will probably be in the description. Me and my girlfriend, we abused it very heavily. We were sometimes doing it every weekend, every other weekend, certainly doing it a lot for years. And prior to meeting her, I was doing it as well, and it was very bad. It was really like terrible. So bad that I think we have we definitely have trauma from our lives at that time, that period of life, but almost trauma from the MDMA itself, like a kind of almost like trauma response to it, which is ironic, obviously, because it's used for like treating PTSD and stuff. But for years, we didn't even like talking about MDMA, like remembering times that we took it, remembering songs or hearing songs we used to listen to on it and things like that. It was just a very, very bad vibe. And whilst, unlike other addictions, I guess you're not likely to end up taking it every day. And if you do, I can't even imagine. Like, there's that one guy, that famous case study, and he's only known as like Mr. X because his identity isn't revealed, but he was taking it every day, like 20 pills a day or something for years. It's worth reading about. It is disturbing, fascinating, but really, really, really disturbing. And I can't even imagine. It gives me chills to think about. So yeah, it's not an addiction typically that ends up like that. It's not like, opiates or something where you end up taking it all the time. But the effect it can have on you when you take it too regularly is pretty terrible, I think. Like the depression, the mood swings, the anger, the misery, just the feeling of hopelessness, not being able to be happy apart from, on the weekend when you're taking it, the physical effects, how sick it starts to make you. It's really, really bad. Anyway, so we abused it very heavily, and then we stopped taking it, and then once in a while we would take it again, and it would be kind of shit, basically. Like, even if we waited like a year, it just didn't really do anything. We would take it and like we'd have some mild effects, and we'd think, yeah, not worth it. And we used to take way too much. We used to take like a gram between us. A couple of times I think we did more. And all the advice that I disregarded at the time about weighing it, about not doing more than, maybe 200 mg in a session, about all of this stuff was completely correct, and I should have paid attention to it. And I wish I could tell more people that. I wish like kids who are taking it, like young adults who are taking it, I wish I could tell them all, like not to make the same mistakes that I did and that we did, because it's so destructive. It's crazy. Anyway, young people do stupid things, so yeah, we'd taken it a couple of times since that period of like extreme sort of abuse of it. And yeah, we'd, as they say, lost the magic. And we just didn't really want to. We got into other drugs later on, and, like some of which were probably not very healthy either. Well, definitely weren't. And we kind of lost interest in it a bit and didn't really want to take it again. And then recently we thought, yeah, maybe it'd be all right. It's been so long. As I say, I think it's been like 4 years or something since we've taken it. It's certainly been years. And we have taken other things, similar things, other sort of euphoric drugs in the meantime, like 5-MAPB, quite a few times. Not much, really. I mean, we don't really take anything often. But we've had a few sessions on that. I have to say that feels a lot milder, both when you're on it and the after effects. I know there's a bit of a debate whether or not benzofurans are as neurotoxic as MDMA. from my subjective experience, I would say they're definitely not. I really feel quite strongly that just basing it on the come down or the how you feel the following week, to me that feels a hell of a lot milder. 5 MAPB, I mean, 6 APB maybe a slightly different story, but I haven't really taken that much anyway. So yeah, actually a few weeks ago we took 5 MAPB, and that was the first time we'd done anything like this in a really long time. That was like, I don't know, like a month ago or something. And what day are we today? Today is Thursday. So last Friday we took MDMA, and it was really good. The magic, as they say, was definitely regained. It felt really nice, and it was a very positive experience for the most part, but not without its downsides. So the first thing was that it took a really long time to come up. We took like 130 mg each, and after about an hour, starting to feel kind of weird. Been having little waves of sort of anxiety, and then feeling a little bit like we were coming up, and then kind of feeling weird. And then it got to about an hour and a half, and I started thinking, this is weird. And I was looking at Reddit posts, and there were posts saying stuff like, if it takes 2 hours, it could be, what's it called? Not MDA, one of the other ones that's commonly, or used to be, apparently it's not common anymore, but it used to be very common in pills. One of the other, substitutes, cheaper substitutes people use, and that apparently takes 2 hours to come up. And approaching the 2 hour mark, we were starting to feel it more and more. And I was like, oh, shit. And people were saying that this stuff is really nasty. We should have tested it, by the way. That's another piece of advice that I failed to heed over the years. Never used a testing kit in my life, which is probably really stupid. It seems quite expensive to keep doing it over and over again, but I guess that's worth it if it's for your health. Anyway, yeah, so I started thinking, oh, shit, this is whatever that stuff is. It took a really long time, and I was getting really stressed out. And then after about 2 hours, it just kind of started, how you kind of look, you don't notice it, and then you look back and you're like, oh yeah, shit, yeah, I feel good now. I think I'm fine. You sort of gradually start to feel better and better. It was a very slow come up though, and we didn't have a full stomach or anything. It was like really slow, which was weird because it's not really supposed to be. Very slow, gradual come up. And then by about 3 hours in, we were feeling really good. And it reminded me, like, before I had completely ruined my tolerance, when we used to take it and we'd get good quality MDMA, like, it's not, and when you take the right amount, it's not like speedy, you don't feel weird, you feel actually like, it's very clear-headed, you feel kind of serene and like peaceful. And, if you have like a tolerance and you take way too much because you have to get a buzz, and you're kind of like talking shit and you're just gurning and you're like, oh, fucking, I love you, I love talking to you, blah, 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 and just chatting bollocks. But when it's good, I feel like you feel like yourself. You're not, it's not artificial. It doesn't feel like an artificial feeling. You just feel really good. You just feel amazing. You feel a sense of peace and contentment that allows you to be open to other feelings, like feelings of empathy and feelings of love, and feelings that when you're a bit stressed in day-to-day life, it can be hard to be open to. And it just feels it's almost like calming, or like, I don't know, I know people take it to like go like clubbing and stuff. I can't really imagine doing that. The thought that is like horrifying to me. But like, yeah, we were just hanging out here, and like, it's very tranquil, and like, it's not to say it's not stimulating, but just, I don't know. Yeah, it was really nice. Stimulating, but clear-headed. And I wasn't having too many sort of physical symptoms. My girlfriend was. And immediately we were like, well, not immediately, it took a long time, but once that started, we were like, shit, yeah, like I'm really glad we decided to do this again, because we were a bit uncomfortable taking it. We felt like maybe this is a bad idea to take this again and whatever, and we were suddenly like, this is fucking brilliant, this is the best night ever, so glad we're going to do this for the rest of the night, blah, blah, blah. We were really optimistic, and we had I bought a gram, and I knew we can't take a gram. That'd be a disaster. So there's a trick, I guess, that I used to do where I would send things to myself. So it would be gone, and then it would arrive like a week later. And so then you can choose how much because you don't want it in the house. And I decided not to do this. We decided not to do this because we felt a bit anxious about doing it. I don't know, because of, for legal reasons and whatnot. So we decided not to. And I was thinking, I hope this is okay. Anyway, we didn't end up overdoing it with the MDMA. Luckily, we maybe took a tiny bit more than half, but it was fine. Like we didn't, it got to a point where we were starting to come down, and we could have, in the old days, we would have taken more. We would have redosed at like 2 a.m. and we literally used to redose at like 2 a.m. And it's a chilling thought. I used to go to sleep like, just like so tense. I can't even describe it. Like I remember one time I woke up and my arse cheeks were in like agony, and I hadn't been getting up to anything, I'd just been just tensing them in my sleep, like literally just like while I was sleeping, I was so tense and pouring sweat every time we took it. Like literally without fail, every time I would be just pouring sweat, like just the whole bed would be soaked. I always had to put a t-shirt down on my pillow. All these physical symptoms from overdoing it. Didn't have any of that this time. So yeah, we took a bit more than half a gram between us, I'd say, but not much. And it was really good. We didn't redose late or anything. And yeah, I've been working on an album recently, and we listened to that, and that was really good. It was a really super useful and positive experience, I would say, like in the way that MDMA can be, because I've been thinking like this album is really good, but it's been so private, and it's like hard to, you kind of exist in this weird little echo chamber when you're working on something privately, and we used to listen to stuff I was working on together more, and of course we were on drugs when we listened to it, which, has an impact, but it was nice for us both to listen to a couple of tracks from it and be like, wow, like this is fucking incredible. And it really got me, it gave me a huge boost of enthusiasm for the project, which has carried over until now. It made me feel a lot better about working on it, and given me kind of a vision and it's made the goal that's more in sight. It's made me sort of, I don't know, it was very motivating. And then we like talked about various things, various situations we've had. And to be fair, I mean, we're pretty open with one another generally, so it's not like we really need to take MDMA to like talk about our problems or anything, but just, talking about various situations we deal with and stuff like that, and just having fun and feeling good. And it's been a stressful couple of years in some ways, so it was really, really good just to have like a lot of fun. And yeah, then what I like about it is you can stay inside and listen to music, and obviously music sounds amazing. We were listening to music next door, not mine, like other music, and then we would go outside for a walk, and that would feel really good. It'd be a really nice break. Then you get bored of doing that, and you're like, all right, let's go back, listen to some music again, and you can kind of like alternate between those two things, and it feels amazing, like just walking around, listening to music, whatever, go inside. And so, yeah, we didn't prepare well enough though. I didn't buy 5-HTP in advance, which is good to take the following week. I didn't prepare supplements, because there's a lot of stuff like grapeseed extract, alpha lipoic acid, although some people say that kind of kills your high if you take it while you're on it. We had magnesium and a couple of other things sitting around, and we took some of those, but a bit late. We kind of forgot, and we weren't on it at all with that stuff, which was really stupid, and it was stupid to not buy 5-HTP. We have been occasionally taking NAC for the last few months, to try and like fix some of that damage we've done, I guess, over the years with various different drugs. And that's believed to, if you regularly supplement with NAC, it's believed to help with MDMA tolerance and maybe repair some of the damage it causes. So we'd been taking that sometimes for a few months, but we weren't on it enough with taking stuff on the night or with like hydration and shit like that. In general, I would like to have been much more well prepared, and we ordered 5-HTP afterwards, but it didn't arrive until yesterday. And we didn't really need it yesterday. We needed it, the days before that, which I'll get onto. But it got to a final sort of, we were going to take a redose and have a little line as well. And we thought maybe it'd be good to take some 4-HOMET to kind of boost it a bit. So we don't have to overdo it on the MDMA, but we can kind of keep the night going a bit longer and like trip a little bit, and it'll be kind of interesting because people say it's a really good combo. But it got a bit out of hand basically, because we didn't prepare it beforehand. I did actually prepare some beforehand, but we didn't do that, and I wasn't. It's what annoys me about these substances, these research chems and stuff. The doses are so precise, it's like really fucking difficult unless you have incredibly expensive scales. So it's really difficult to do. So you end up being kind of vague, and I know you can do like volumetric and shit, but even that, you have to put a lot in, and it's really annoying. So I thought, all right, like we can just have a bit, like sniff a bit and whatever. So we decided to just be very cautious, very kind of trepidatiously, like sniff a little bit of it, a tiny amount that we know isn't really going to do anything. Give it 20 minutes, maybe a bit more, another 20 minutes, maybe a bit more, to very cautiously approach it. But that kind of got out of hand and became a bit messy and wasn't very accurately done. It's too small to do that precisely. It was really stupid. Like, I fully understand that. It was a stupid decision made well into the night when we were already like pretty, buzzed. So we started doing that. Started suddenly tripping pretty hard and still felt good, but I was thinking, this is kind of changed the character of the experience a little bit. I've kind of forgot how tripping feels, and I don't really want to be tripping that much right now, but it's okay. And we went out for a walk, and the walk was like stunning. It was, I can't explain it. We were walking around town. This town we're in is really nice, and we were just like, man, this is like, there's barely anyone about. And it was a beautiful night, and like walking along the beach, there was lights, and it was a sort of overwhelmingly beautiful, like, and being with each other was so nice. It was just so incredible to be around each other and to go for this walk, and like, it was a really, really, really amazing experience. It was almost too nice, like, it was like, man, this is weird. It was like weird. And I think that was the tripping starting, the psych starting to take effect, where it was like, why is everything so nice? And like, the colours were unbelievable, and just like looking at each other and looking around, and it was like, man, this is shockingly, sort of overwhelmingly beautiful. And we were on the beach with our dog, and it was like really good. And then I remember at one point looking around and looking at the view, and I remember being like, this is the best night of my life. And like, I've probably said that before, to be honest, quite a few times, but I remember thinking, this is it. This is definitely the best night of my life. Like, this is just unbelievable. Like, this is absolutely the best night of my life, and kind of laughing about it. And then it started to get like, because our dog's got an injury, and we were on the beach, and it was all rocky, and I was trying to like get her around, and it started to get a bit weird. And then we started to get kind of paranoid. Like, we were on the beach on this pathway, and there's no one around, and it's this road where like almost no one lives on it. All the houses are like abandoned and empty. And in the corner of my eye, I saw this group of people, and they were like laughing. I couldn't tell if it was a family or a group of like youths, and we were tripping, and my vision was really blurry, and I was very paranoid. I didn't want to like stare at them. And then they just started like walking directly towards us, and I was like, all right, let's go home, because I was just like, are we about to get like mugged or something? And I thought, this terrible way to end this night if we get mugged on this beach. It's a really secluded part of the beach. I think in hindsight, it was literally just a family out for a walk. But in the corner of my eye, I was like, this might be a group of youths, and it sounds like they're like laughing at us. And it looked like they were walking along, and then they saw us, and they decided to come over towards us, like they weren't going to walk that way previously. So I started getting really paranoid, and we started leaving. And then from there, things started to get a bit funny. Like, we were walking home, and it was all right, and I was explaining, yeah, sorry if I was being weird about that, but I couldn't see like clearly, so I don't know who they were. And she was like, yeah, I think it was just a family. And I was like, all right, sorry. And then I felt like, this is always how it starts, I find, with bad trips. There's a little thing socially that it's a tiny thing. It's a crack in the windshield, and it causes you to start being in your head a bit, and then you're like fucked. So I think I started to think, I've been weird and uptight, and I've like spoiled the walk, because I wanted to get the dog home as well, because I was getting really annoyed with like carrying her, because she has to have her back supported, and it was kind of becoming a bit difficult, and and then I sort of said something about that, and I think my girlfriend then thought that I was offended by her kind of judging me for being uptight, so we both started to get into our own heads a bit, and I kind of shrugged it off. I was all right. And unbeknownst to me, she then started like churning all of this over in her head, and it's always like that. It begins, I find, with something very small, like a weird social interaction that doesn't quite go how it should, or doesn't go smoothly, and you end up like in your head and going kind of crazy. Then we went home, and we were thinking, okay, sort of tripping now and coming down a bit, and things are maybe not going to be quite as fun as they were earlier. And I was okay with that. I was like, all right, let's try and amuse ourselves. We didn't have as much to talk about. We weren't as enthusiastic about the night, and my girlfriend was getting more and more quiet, and I just thought she was just coming down and being a bit depressed. I had no idea she was having like a mad one. And then I kept being like, let's have a laugh a bit. I'm trying to talk to you. You're not really saying anything. I keep trying to, because we were both feeling a bit shit. So I was trying to think of like funny stuff or just make conversation, and she wasn't really. And I thought she was just a bit bored and depressed. And then after like half an hour or so of that, she had like crazy look in her eyes, like sort of bad trip look, and she was like really stressed out. She was like, I'm sorry if I'm being really weird or boring. Am I having like the craziest time ever? And I had no idea. It was quite shocking, because I had no idea. Anyway, she was tripping way too hard, basically, and had gone into all this crazy mind-bending psychological shit in her head, and it was so weird she couldn't even explain it. It was just like all of this crazy shit going on in her mind, and it seemed to affect her quite strongly. And I think the come down had affected her quite a lot more. She had a bit of a mad one. And it took a while. We got caught in a lot. Well, she got caught in a lot of thought loops, and I had to keep re-explaining like how things were, what was really going on, and how everything was fine. And I kept sort of saying, like, I was like, I can't speak to what is going on in your mind, but I can tell you, like, from my perspective, we're just here, everything's normal, there's nothing crazy going on, there's no weird vibe between us, everything's fine, we're just coming down basically, and tripping, and there's nothing bad going on, everything's fine. And then we would just get caught in loops of talking about this over and over again, and she would keep apologizing. I was like, you don't need to apologize, it's fine, like, everything is fine, don't worry. And it's just that weird thing when you're tripping, your brain just keeps incorrectly digesting the same information over and over again, and confusing you in a way that's hard. It's hard to even describe. Like, and that went on for a little while. And by the time that finished, the night was kind of over. Like, we were pretty tired, and we'd sort of come down. And she was sort of disappointed. She was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and this and that. And I was like, maybe it's a bit. I can't really say exactly why it was maybe my fault, but you can probably deduce why it could have been my fault that this happened. Our fault, we'll say. yeah, so I was like, it really doesn't matter. Like, we had a really good time and it's fine. Like, it's not a thing at all. And we were sort of thinking about that because, yeah, it was such a good night and it ended on a bit of a sour note. And I don't think it was anyone's fault. I think it was just like, if anything, probably more mine, to be honest, because of whatever. Again, you can probably deduce why. But I just don't want to say it, you know. But also, kind of not really. We were just being stupid. We just got a bit carried away, basically, and it wasn't a disaster. It was fine, really. It was, you know, it was pretty much fine. But in hindsight, yeah, like, I don't know. We had the dog around, and the dog's very unwell at the moment. It was all a bit messy. It was quite a lot messier than it should have been, and a bit chaotic, and not very well planned. I would like to have planned everything a lot more. And we were kind of thinking, oh, it's a shame that the night ended like that, you know, because it was so good before. But then I was thinking about that and thinking about how we think of good times and like trying to possess them. And I think it's a flawed approach. It's a flawed way to think about good times. Like, you can't possess them. You can't, like, all of the good things that happen to you in your life will just disappear, and you can't possess happiness. It has to like pass through you. And that's one of the things I think it's why sometimes, you know, in some ways taking drugs all the time and stuff, it can make you like a bit stupid and dysfunctional. But in some ways, I think people who take drugs a lot, even people who are kind of stupid, like, you get insights into the nature of existence and life that other people who just drink or who are sober just don't really have. It's very difficult for them to have, because you get into all these interesting mental states, and you the nature of like, you have a lot of reference points for like our subjective experience of life and for all of these different things. So you end up thinking a lot about these kinds of things, I guess. And it's one of the things that I think is really good about taking drugs, is it makes you've probably, if you're someone who takes things like this, you've probably had that experience before. You've been around people who in day-to-day life are pretty stupid people, or like maybe boring people, but anyone who's been into, most people anyway, who've been into drugs like in their life, they have a certain depth to them that's like kind of odd, and that it's hard to have without taking them. And perhaps that sounds like pretentious, but it's just the truth. You just kind of, because you, for example, you experience these states of like euphoria, and then you feel like shit. And that is just a very eye-opening experience. And it's very eye-opening to know that you can experience that level of euphoria and that it's possible. And it's very eye-opening to know that you can feel so bad and that things can change in a second, and the world around you doesn't have to change, but your feelings are all that change. Your perspective is all that changes, and your chemical balance and everything. And so, yeah, I guess it was useful from that point of view, because I was thinking, you know, like, yeah, we still had that good time earlier. It doesn't matter that the night ended a bit awkwardly, because it was going to end anyway. That doesn't really change what happened earlier. And I find it's a thing we do a lot, you know, like, oh, we were having a great day and then you fucking, you know, we had an argument and it ruined it or whatever. And it's like, you know, we had a nice meal out and now we've ruined it by fighting on the way home. And it's like, you didn't really ruin the meal, did you? You still had a really nice meal, and the meal, it's gone now. You had it, and I think you have to accept that about good times and positive emotions and happiness. Like, they will pass through you, and you can't grab them and put them in your pocket and keep them, you know, like, so you have to be accepting of that. And I think it makes it easier to enjoy them and appreciate them, and think, yeah, you know, we had a really good time earlier, and then there was some slightly awkward bits and whatever, but yeah, it was really good. So overall, yeah, it was really fucking positive. Like, on the night, went to bed, bit tired, but had a good sleep, didn't have any of the weird sweating, the jaw clenching, any of that shit. Got some food down us, didn't probably drink enough water, didn't, as I say, take enough supplements or anything like that. And we should definitely have done more of all of that. And then the next day felt great. Had a really good day the next day. We were just really excited to hang out, which tends to be the case, I find, the day after. You feel pretty good. we were excited to just hang out and watch TV. It was nice to have time off, you know. And then by night time the following day, started to feel a bit shit. And then for the next 2 or 3 days, we felt like pretty terrible. She was getting a lot of nausea. I didn't have any of that. But both felt pretty depressed. We had actually on Tuesday night, I think it was, we took it on Saturday, and we used to take it on Fridays, but I find if you take it after work on a Friday, you start very late. If you take it on a Saturday, even though you have one less day to recover, you can start way earlier and have the whole day to prepare and to be ready, and you're not knackered and everything, and I think it's better. So we took it on Saturday, and yeah, I think on Tuesday we had a pretty bad argument at night. Like, we were both pretty fucking angry and depressed, and it's that feeling of like have a really bad hostile argument, and afterward, which we don't really have, you know, normally these days. We used to when we took MDMA all the time. Fuck me. And that's not the only reason, and that's not the only reason they stopped either, but of course it was a huge factor. And then after the argument, you know, you're like, oh, I feel like shit. You know, you get all like emo, you get all like angsty. And it reminded me of that feeling of being young again, where I'm just like, you get like emotional, you're upset that you've had an argument, and you kind of want like validation that everything's all right, but you're still angry, and you're sort of like holding on to all these, you know, you sort of sat there in bed just like, fuck you, you know, like you want to like cry and shit. And it's like really just, it's kind of pathetic, and we felt like that, and I thought, shit, maybe this was a really bad idea. You know, for a day or two I thought, this was possibly a bad idea. So we ordered the 5-HTP that night, which was good to have the foresight, I guess, to do that. Well, not the foresight, but to realise then that we needed to. And, you know, we ordered that and had a couple of those yesterday and today, and feel very normal. I mean, by the time it arrived, as I say, we didn't really need it. I already kind of felt better. We both did. So it was for like 2 days that we felt like shit. And not on the timeline I would typically expect either, which was kind of weird. I used to find, I guess it depends how much you take and everything and how late you stay up, but I used to find if I took it on a Friday, on Tuesday I would start to feel like shit. If I took it on a Saturday, on Wednesday I would feel like shit. And yeah, so it was a bit quicker than I expected, but it kind of went very quickly. Yeah, I feel good now. I feel like it was a positive experience. The whole thing I feel was really positive, and I've been back to normal life, and it's been helpful. It was really good. What was really good as well was we didn't get carried away. It's nice to see, okay, like we're adults now, and we're not going to start redosing at 2 a.m. We're not going to go crazy. We're not going to get super carried away. And we felt like shit, but it was okay. We had a fight, and then we just kind of like moved on, looked after each other, got on with life, sorted it out. And so all of that was reassuring, and it's good to know that like now what we want to do is do it the way that other people do it, that we were always told to do it and were never sensible enough to do, you know, like a few times a year, very sensible with your dosages, take loads of supplements, look after yourself well, don't fucking randomly start taking psychs on the night without preparing it. And I feel very optimistic about that. I feel like, yeah, this would be a nice thing that when we need a night off, you know, 2-3 times a year, maybe 4, you know, we can do this once in a while, because I think you don't really need it more than that. I don't think, like, you don't need to feel incredible every weekend. In fact, I don't think it's good, especially the price you pay for it with MDMA. You know, I think it's like, yeah, once in a while you need to release that like pressure valve and feel that, and it can help you think about things in a different way. I think that's better, and I don't think you need it too often. And I don't want to, you know, I want to sleep. I want to get work done. I want to work on my various projects, and I don't want to feel amazing all the time, to be honest. So it's really nice to come back at it from that perspective, and it's made me think like, man, I hope I have the possibility one day, or a platform or something to stop people from doing what we did, really. I don't know what would work, what would have made us listen, but it makes me sad to think so many people are in that situation or are doing that, and I don't know. I desperately need a shit suddenly. So I'm going to wrap this video up early. Anything else on my list? I was laughing extremely hard at a line from The Room for some reason. When, if you've seen The Room, it's the funniest thing ever made. When Tommy Wiseau's character comes home and he hasn't had his promotion at the bank, and he says, "They are crazy. I saved them bundles." And I was just crying, laughing for about 10 minutes for some reason near the end when we were tripping and coming down, thinking about how funny it is to have a character who works at the bank who says when he doesn't get a promotion, "They are crazy. I saved them bundles." And I just kept thinking, like what's he doing to save them bundles? What does that mean? I saved them bundles. I was thinking about Tommy a lot and looking at a lot of Tommy Wiseau related stuff when I was sort of bored and depressed and coming down, and that was really amusing me. That movie never fails to make me laugh. Yeah, I could watch it now. I could watch it twice today and enjoy it. I honestly think it's one of the funniest things about life is, like, probably you could be a creative genius and you could put a decade of your life into trying to make, like, the funniest film ever made. Probably just wouldn't be as funny as The Room. Like, no matter how hard you tried, and he made it by mistake. And I think that fucking sums up life. It doesn't sum up life, but it's poignant anyway. It tells you something, perhaps, about life. That so many things, like, it's so much stuff is so out of your control, and the things you think will happen tend not to, and things you don't think will happen, and I enjoy things that are about that a lot. Like there's a Billy Woods song called Keloid, I don't know how you say it, Keloid, which is really good. It's not really funny, it's very dark and depressing, but it's a really good song where he talks about that. He has lyrics about that in the song, about that aspect of the nature of life. And also in the show Peep Show, I really like that Mark, if you've seen Peep Show anyway, Mark tries really hard to be like a normal person and a good person and to have, like, the life he's supposed to have and to do all of the things that society expects of him, and basically just, like, gets humiliated constantly and his life is terrible. And then Jeremy kind of, like, just fucks about and does whatever he wants, and people sort of like him more, and he has way more girlfriends, and he's not successful, but he puts nothing in and doesn't try, and he gets quite a lot out of life and gets a free ride off people and is relatively happy. And meanwhile, Mark is, like, miserable, and his life by the end is, well, I won't spoil it in case you haven't seen it. Sorry. But it's fairly obvious, really, anyway, and it's not, Yeah, so maybe I'll bleep that part out. I don't like spoiling things at all. And yeah, that's one of the things I find funny about The Room anyway, is he made, like, it's a kind of a perfect movie. For a movie that's so bad, it's, like, perfectly bad. Like, you couldn't really improve it. You couldn't really make it funnier. It's basically one of the only examples I can think of like, a perfect piece of art. And it's a complete mistake, and he had no idea what he was doing. But maybe on some level he did, I don't know. I love it. So that was really amusing me to think about that. I must take a shit now. Yeah. So, sorry for spoiling Peep Show if I can't find a way to bleep that out if you haven't seen it. And, yeah, don't know why I'm still delaying this shit. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you later. Please, if you're taking stuff like this, please, it's like a PSA, but just, I hope you are not being as stupid as I used to be, because it's fucking not worth it, man. Doing yourself in with drugs, taking them every weekend. Life looks so different and so much more hopeless when you do that, and you begin to think there's nothing else for you, and there fucking is, man. Like, there is. And if you can enjoy yourself on drugs at the weekend, then there are things in your life that you can enjoy. it's never the right thing to do. It's never like, oh yeah, it makes sense. That's what you should do. You should just fucking take MDMA every weekend and fuck your brain up. Like, that's never the correct decision, ever. There are no circumstances in which that would be the correct decision, even if you only had like a year to live. So, yeah, cool. Right, time to shit. Bye. Thanks for watching.